D Hannah 1234 says, Grant, do you think Kyle hasn't really publicly reinforced Trey because of to ease the pressure a bit to start the season with low expectations? Well, I think there's something to that because they really ratcheted up the expectations last year, didn't they? At every turn.
I think there is something to that. The issue is that, well, again, it goes back to, and I hate to saying this over and over again because I'm also a Niners fan, but sometimes I get the idea that the Niners think that they're the only man with vision, or man or woman, or however, in a blind society. Like, they're the only ones smart enough to see this. Like, we're stupid. We won't notice the fact that you traded 3 first-round picks for this guy and that there's going to be pressure.
Well, they say it's only 2.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. But the point is,
2.
We won't notice any of that. We'll just instead, only talk about the fact that he's this young guy who's barely played, blah, blah, blah. That's just not how it works. And that's where sometimes I wish there was a little bit more of that definitiveness. Like, embrace the pressure. You've been to 2 NFC championship games in the last 3 years. You've, traded this much up for a quarterback that you believe in that much. Like, embrace it. Be a part of that pressure.
They embraced the pressure last year, right? That's why they had all these 30-year-olds on 1-year contracts. Tart, Norman, K'Wan Williams.
They said this is going to be a difficult situation, and they still made it happen, and they got themselves to the NFC Championship game. They had a successful football season. So,
to me, I think they're just being really conservative, and I feel like when they drafted Trey Lance, again, they traded up for the number 3 pick, not for Lance. They traded up for the opportunity to figure out who they wanted. They decided it was Trey Lance, but I think that the thing with Lance, I think they liked Mac Jones and felt he could start right away. He could start right away. I think with Lance, they felt, yes, but he needs time. And whenever he does start, that first year might be kind of rough just because he's young and hasn't played that much. So I think they decided, do you want to have that rough year in 2021 or 2022? You and I said, get it out of the way. Do it now. And they were like, nah, we owe it to ourselves to run it back with this team and see what they can do. Because they were, they were this close and they tried and they were good again and they didn't get it done. And now this is sort of the consequence of their decision, in my opinion. This is always going to come. And they're bracing for, we might just go 7-10 this year.
And I think that's where evoking the name Patrick Mahomes is always dangerous. I didn't want to compare it to the Mahomes conversation because it's not just the fact that, okay, the first part of it, I guess, is similar. You had a successful season. You sat him for the full year. He also played a game at the end of the season that looked pretty good, especially the second half of that Texan game. First half was a little bit rough. The second half was unbelievably good. Made you very excited if you're a fan. The issue is that Patrick Mahomes hit the ground running in his second year and had a top, 5 quarterback season of all time. 50 touchdowns, 5,000 yards. How many other guys have done that? Manning? I think Manning's the only other one.
Right.
50 and 5,000 in the same season. I don't think Rodgers has done it. I know Brady's done the 5,000. I don't think he threw 50 touchdowns that season. He threw 50 in 07.
So Trey, just be one of the greatest quarterbacks ever for a year.
Just have one of the greatest seasons ever. And, the Chiefs didn't temper the expectations either with Mahomes. They went all in that free agency. I remember every media member that could talk. I remember you would watch any sports show in the middle of July and they're saying, who do you think is going to surprise a lot of people? Oh, Patrick Mahomes. The Chiefs are talking about Patrick Mahomes like he's blah, 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 blah. Maybe that happens with Trey Lance in July, but I also remember reading a report, and I wish I could pull up the article. Brett Veach, who was their GM at the time when they drafted Patrick Mahomes, their GM, I think, was John Dorsey still. Brett Veach then replaced him. I think the year they got Patrick Mahomes, they started Patrick Mahomes, so in 2018. But I remember seeing a quote there was an article in ESPN in 2017, and I'll pull it up if I can. But Brett Veach had said he was an upper personnel executive in the Chiefs hierarchy at the time. He wasn't the GM. That was John Dorsey. He said that Patrick Mahomes was the best quarterback he'd ever seen. And that was when Alex Smith was starting and Alex Smith was in the MVP conversation. And the Chiefs started that season 6-0. They lost 4 in a row, became 6-4, and they were a wild card team. But they started that season, they might have been they were a division winner. They played Tennessee at home that year in the playoffs and lost because Travis Kelce got hurt the second half, and they blew a big lead to Marcus Mariota, who was awful that season. By the way,
That's right.
Yeah. I remember reading that, and I'll look for it. I'll see if I can find it right now. But Brett Veach said Patrick Mahomes was the best quarterback he's ever seen.
Yeah, and another thing about real quick with the Chiefs, like they may have felt that way about Mahomes, but they didn't trade up to number 3 a month before the draft. They waited for Mahomes to they were like, we love him, but we're going to need a couple of things to happen before we make this happen. He fell to 10. They traded up, but they didn't give up 3 first-round picks. They gave up a 3rd-round pick for him. And so it was a good value. And then when they started hyping him up, it wasn't to defend a controversial move. It was to basically say, we found a diamond in the rough. You guys, nine teams passed on this guy or whatever.
Yeah. No, they
it was
traded up.
different.
And that's the distinction, right? Like the Niners traded up to 3 for the right because they needed a quarterback and they wanted to scout quarterbacks further. And
Yes.
they landed and they knew they really liked Trey Lance. And I think they really liked Mac Jones too. And they ended up making the decision for Trey Lance through going through a process. The Chiefs went through a process, felt Patrick Mahomes was this special football player, and they traded up to get Patrick Mahomes. I don't believe with the Chiefs the way they were with Alex Smith and all of that and how comfortable that situation seemed from the outside. I don't believe the Chiefs were going to trade up to 10 if Patrick Mahomes went at 5 in that draft. Maybe they love Deshaun Watson too. Who knows? But the Chiefs looked at Patrick Mahomes as that one-of-one special guy. We can't miss on him. We got to go get him. They didn't look at it as, oh, shoot, we got to go get a quarterback. There's 4 good ones in this draft. We really like these 2. Let's go up to that spot and study them and make sure we make the right decision. They were they had great conviction in Patrick Mahomes, and they traded up for him. And here's the actual quote. It's not from October. I was wrong. It's from March 2nd of 2018. Okay, March 2nd of 2018. So before, at this point, Patrick Mahomes has started only 1 game. And Brett Veach is asked a question on whether Patrick Mahomes is an upgrade over Alex Smith. And here's his answer. I think it's more of a plan and a vision and really putting the quarterback in a position to succeed, Chiefs general manager Brett Veach said. I think we had a plan for Patrick, and that was to first come in, learn the offense, and learn the offense and not go out there and play until you have a firm mental grasp of what you want to accomplish. All the physical tools are there. He is one of the best football players I have ever seen, but you don't throw someone out there too soon. You want them to be who they are and not process too much and just play. Coach Reed had a vision, and we brought him along slowly, and we are excited for the future. The guy has played 1 game in the NFL, and he called him one of the best football players he's ever seen and talked about that plan and talked about him being an upgrade over Alex Smith, who, by the way, was in the MVP conversation a year ago.
To your point, he'd been on Brett Veach's radar for years. Veach had been watching him for years. That wasn't someone he turned on the tape in January and by March was like, boy, this guy's one of the best football players No, that's a guy he'd known about. Kyle and the Niners process, I mean, they do have scouts in their personnel department, but in terms of Kyle, I mean, and in 2017, I don't think he really knew much about Patrick Mahomes until that year, it leads to problems. At least he's not drafting him.
Yeah, and I'll take it a step further, right? Because then in that same interview, and I'm assuming this was his introductory. If this was March 2nd, this might have been his introductory press conference or pre-free agency press conference in 2018. And he said they asked him about the Broncos game and whether that confirmed his readiness. And this is what he said. It was something we all expected, Veach said. From the day Patrick stepped on the field in the rookie mini camps, the OTAs, the training camps, he has always wowed us. Have you ever seen Kyle Shanahan or John Lynch use those words, wow, with Trey Lance? I've seen reporters use it. I've seen other players use it. Jimmy Ward, George Kittle, all these people. I've seen Grant Cohn use the word wow with Trey Lance. I'm yet to see Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch take that step to show that level of conviction in Trey Lance. He has a lot to learn yet. I think he grew tremendously, but having watched him day in and day out, just impress us. Take to the studying, take to the working the craft. He did a tremendous job. I think we knew when the Denver game rolled around, he would absolutely make plays and show all the things he showed throughout this process. The Niners, so at this point in 2018, it sounds like Veach is 100% sure about what Mahomes is. He says Mahomes is wowing them, and they're ready to go all in. The Niners are still talking about Lance proving to them that he's the starter. What are we doing here?
But again, I feel like Mahomes proved this to Veach way before they took him. They were sold on him way early, maybe years before they took him. And for the Niners, it seems to me that they made a quick rash. They traded up in March without knowing who they wanted. They made their decision at the 11th hour who they wanted. And it almost feels like they have a little bit of buyer's remorse. Because
that was confirmed, right? That was confirmed by John Lynch and
it's like a shotgun wedding, right? It's like I dated this dude, this person, girl, been in this relationship for 2 weeks. We got married. Like, really? How well do you know this person? That's kind of what the Niners did. I think.
Yeah, and again, their actions scream they believe in him, right? You trade that much up, you better damn well be sure. And I think they aren't stupid, so I do think they are sure. People like you who've gotten the opportunity to watch him in practice say he looks awesome. He looks fantastic. We saw last season, it started off
It's
rough.
like, say it with your chest, 49ers.
Right.
Say
We
it with
saw
your
the
chest.
improvement.
Yeah.
We saw the second half against Houston, which should have every 49ers fan just, whoo. If we have a guy who could play like that, how he played in the second half against Houston, then maybe the Niners do win a Super Bowl coming up because the window is now. And yet, why won't they take that step to be definitive? Why are we May 23rd talking about Jimmy Garoppolo, plan to start Trey Lance, all of this? It's just odd to me.
Obviously they're not as confident as the Chiefs were in Mahomes, but how could you be? I mean, if that's what the Niners were waiting for, that special feeling that they have Patrick Mahomes on their team, they're never going to get that.
Yeah, I mean, Patrick Mahomes is a generational player. He's not one that walks around every 10 years.
No.
Yeah.
Jiron Anthony says Kyle may think Trey might be another version of RG3. I think Trey is going to be elite if Kyle can be patient like he is with Jimmy Garoppolo. Look, man, we're going to see. I can't wait to see practice tomorrow. Trey Lance with the first team with extended rest for the first time. It's going to be great. And
you're going to come out and you're going to say he's looking phenomenal, all of that. It's going to be like, we're going to be hyped up and all of that. And the Niners, you're going to ask Kyle Shanahan, you're going to be like, the guy's looking phenomenal. He's like, yeah, he's looked pretty good. By no means was it perfect, but he's coming along.
I know.
We got to get it better.
I'm more interested to see how Kyle uses him more than what Kyle says about him. Like, if he has him doing the Jimmy Garoppolo offense, I'm concerned. But if we see a lot of play action tomorrow, I feel like Kyle's action, despite what he says or hasn't said, he's invested. He's all in. I want to see the Trey Lance
offense. The Florio quote, by the way. He said a lot of things about Trey Lance's potential, but the one thing he said about him now is that he does the play action stuff.
Who said that?
And we know he did that well in college. He was unbelievable off play action in college.
Who said that?
George Kittle.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Freaking play action. It's important. I can't believe Jimmy could go to the coaches and be like, we got to get rid of this. I don't like this part of the playbook. Like, what? Oh, so all the explosive plays, you want them all out? Okay, fine. Sounds good. No, I think it's important. I really want to see that because when they did it in training camp last year, it looked good. And then all of a sudden, I felt like it looked too good. And the coaches were like, let's just make Trey do all the stuff Jimmy does. So this is like more of a competition. I don't know. It's going to look different. I'm excited.